Hi, Reza.
Hello, good morning.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Excellent, good. Pratishta should be there as well. She was also in the waiting room.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here. Good morning.
Hello, good morning. I think it's quite early for you, isn't it?
It's good time. It's 9 a.m. Almost 9.
Oh, yeah, fine.
Reza, are you still there?
Yes, hello, I am here again.
Wow, you're very loud on our speakers. Good to see you. A question, did you go to Le Roche in Switzerland as a student?
I don't hear you well. Maybe you are too far from the microphone.
1, 2, 3, 4, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you, but not so clear. Yes. I just sent you a voice message. I don't know if you, did you listen to the voice message I sent you? 10 minutes?
No, perhaps you can tell us now.
Okay, no, because so we have many people waiting to watch online on our website. So I just wanted to let you know over 300 people. So you should thank them because not everybody is going to be in the Zoom. Most of the people are going to watch it on our website and the social media.
Excellent. And thank you, I should say, whilst everybody's here, thank you for all your help and support on,
Very
on
welcome.
this. It's
Pleasure.
much appreciated.
Maybe anybody want to test a screen share or something to see if everything is working?
Only Pratishta is going to be doing
Okay.
any sharing. Have you tested it with Pratishta?
Yes, we did, but we
did,
can do
yeah.
it right now, probably one more time.
Rosie, could you make me a co-host as well, please, in case I have to, in case Pratishta's connection fails?
I think you are, yes.
Thanks.
I'm just going to test one of the videos. So just let me know if it's okay. Okay.
Sure.
Climate change is the major existential challenge humanity faces. If we don't fix it, our grandkids will freeze or fry. The destructiveness of extreme weather is...
Did it work?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fine.
Okay. Thank you.
ايوه ايوه كابوتشينو هذا جدا ولا حجبين ولا ذاك واحد
Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's stage. What your stage? Junior one. Junior one. 71. You're 72. We were in the same class at school.
Ah, perfect. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we were year 3. Same school from 1972.
Thank you.
Grazie, Carlo.
Thank you. So 6 minutes to go.
Imagine when it's a pound.
Here we have these 4 students in Ukraine. We have no idea what
Of course, of course.
Okay, no, it doesn't ring a bell.
I guess you can't.
I can't know everyone. I know.
I just wondered.
I have to say,
Check with him. Nice guy.
after COVID, we lost sort of 30% of the student body, and it's actually quite nice because I was thinking, I know almost every student now. When I pass them in the corridor, I know who they are. When we pass that kind of 900,000 mark, it's really hard. Yeah.
How many do you have at any given time?
At the moment, we have 560 on campus. So, yeah, but I mean, our goal is to go back up to 900. We have 2 semesters out on internship. So in Mold, we have about 700-800 at the moment.
Simon, how many are there at ITS?
Yeah, overall. I'm not mistaken, they're close to 800. So they're increasing.
Okay, we are also live now. It's few minutes early, but it's okay. And if you just go for your information to the tourismwebinar.com on the homepage, you can watch it live as well. And there are currently 413 watching live. So most of the people are not in the Zoom, but yeah. I would like to thank them, and also the people who are watching on YouTube or our website or social media. If you want to ask questions, you need to come to the Zoom link that you have received, or you can maybe write a message or so. Otherwise, you cannot have a Q&A. That's just to let you know. Thank you.
Yes.
Chairman.
And then I pass on to you.
Pass it to me. And you just said the end of the meeting, you said, now I'm going to pass it to me. Who will moderate the session?
Or maybe they swap it, please.
By the way, what was your name? Great.
Yeah, we go to nice. Even though I did it.
So the wonderful way we're putting this together too. The friendship is really important.
Sensitive experience. Yes, of course. No, the technology makes sense.
Yeah. And then if you're clever, you can promote it during the year. We haven't been good at that.
The police, they think it was everything that by grounding. No, we grounded the boss. Or doing a technical, a technical dive at 100 meters, seeing if I can work for somebody. And you met there for the trip. So.
Police, I think there was a resurrection. So,
I guess, speaking, that it's in the, it was over. And then people think people that it's
Rising population. Yeah, of course. Of course.
And Jeffrey, if you don't mind, I will mute everybody. And I think you are the first speaker or the first speaker, then please unmute yourself. Okay. Okay. But maybe we start a minute or two later because I see people keep coming in, so.
We're in your hands. You are the master of technology.
No. You are the father of the technology, if I'm the master. Okay. Please unmute yourself, and so I think we can start now. Jeffrey, unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Fantastic. So, my name is Leslie Vella, and I'm the chair of SUNx Malta. From this part of the world, I wish you a good afternoon, but I am aware that we have participants from all over the planet, so I think it would be better to wish you all a good day rather than a good afternoon, which is biased in terms of my geographical location. Thank you for joining us for this climate-friendly travel youth summit, and I use the next few minutes to explain why Malta decided to get involved in this very important initiative, and why we continue to participate with a lot of enthusiasm in the activities of SUNx, especially when addressing a demographic such as youth, because youth is the future. Youth represents humanity's hope for taking us to the next chapters of human evolution. And unfortunately too, youth will also inherit the accumulated problems that previous generations have unleashed upon the planet. Climate change, I think the fact that you are in this meeting with us means that you appreciate and understand the impact, the severity, and the growing threat of climate change on the world as we know it, on life, on ecosystems, on diversity of the planet, and also on the very human existence on which we depend. We are not here to discuss climate change in its widest perspective, because it is a very highly technical area of discussion and study, and we are aware that there are many out there, there are specific experts and groups of experts out there who go into the science of it. However, our interest, what brings us together today, is the impact of climate change on travel and what we can do together to minimize climate change through the aspiration of climate-friendly travel. And there will be numerous presentations after I pass the floor to our moderator and president, Professor Jeffrey Lippman, my friend Jeffrey. If you will allow me, I will take you briefly through the developments which inspired the creation of this entity, this organization, which we call SUNx Malta. Jeffrey Lippman has, for a very long time, advocated the need to place attention on climate change and look at climate change from the travel perspective, not only because of the obvious impacts that travel and tourism have and contribute to climate change, but also in a way to ensure that whilst we continue developing the pleasant activity of travel and tourism, which not only generates economic wealth, but has a very wide range of additional advantages, including helping people from different parts of the world understand each other further. The objective that brought Jeffrey to Malta was the need to merge the threat of climate change with a destination in which tourism is very important. Malta has been an independent country for almost 60 years, 59 years of independence this year. And it came out of a history in which, for most of the hundreds of years prior to independence, its economic success depended on military activity. After 1964, we shifted our economy into more peaceful purposes, and tourism emerged as one of the more important elements which could help our economy diversify. Tourism keeps growing. We have recovered almost, this year we will have recovered almost completely from the pandemic in terms of volumes. We estimate that at direct level tourism is at about 10 to 12% of economic activity. And because of its obvious economic multipliers, that 10 to 12% grows to an even larger share of the economy when we take the magical multipliers, which ensure that tourism money spreads numerous times throughout the economy, throughout the economy. And Malta is a very small country for whom tourism is very important. But although we are small on the world stage, throughout our 60-year history of independence, we have undertaken roles and responsibilities which go beyond the limitations of our small size. And I mention a couple in particular. Back in 1967, as an almost brand new member of the United Nations organization, Malta was the country that went to the General Assembly and launched an initiative which eventually became known as the Law of the Sea, in which, through this Malta-inspired initiative, the sea was declared the common heritage of mankind. More recently, and more directly related to what we will be discussing today, in 1988, Malta was the country, again at General Assembly level, which pushed for the eventual UN resolution that recognized climate change as a common concern. And on the basis of this initial resolution dating back to 1988, eventually the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change was born. So small as we are and negligible as we are, we have gone on the world stage, pushed the idea of the sea as the common heritage of mankind, pushed the idea being the first country to raise the threat of climate change, which at that time was a very fringe discussion, doubted by many and ignored by many, and eventually led to the United Nations to give it attention. Even more recently, currently as we speak, Malta by rotation has got its seat, a rotational seat on the UN Security Council as of last January. And one of the agenda items that Malta is pushing in the Security Council discussion is precisely climate change. Why SUNx and Malta? I have explained how we have an economy dependent on tourism. There is the other geographical fact. The geographical fact that we are a small archipelago of low-lying islands. The highest land on Malta, does not exceed 200 meters in height above sea level, and most of our eastern coast is at sea level. So we are obviously under threat. Being islands, our tourism features a very strong coastal dimension. So sea level rise, storms, etc., arising from climate change, all threaten not only the community at large and the coastline, which predominates our landscape, but also threatens tourism as an economic activity, apart from impacts on other unrelated areas or indirectly related areas, including energy generation, water production through reverse osmosis, and even the very aquifer from which we extract around 40% of our fresh water. So obviously, when Jeffrey Lipman approached me in 2018, 2019, and we started discussing this, it seemed like the logic was there, what Jeffrey was pushing for, and what Malta was identifying matched very strongly. And through the support of the Malta government, we managed to get enough political and financial support to be able to work with Jeffrey and work onto SUNx Malta. And what we are doing today and what we shall be doing today is one fruit that arises from this cooperation, which is now entering its 4th year. I thank you for joining us. I think I've spoken enough, and very briefly, I'll pass on to Jeffrey himself, the master, we call him, who is the man who came up with the whole idea and who infects so many people with an enthusiasm born out of a sense of urgency that we all face. I was recently at a conference in Las Palmas on the Canary Islands, and I made one observation, which I will conclude with. And the observation is that the clock is ticking very loudly for mankind and for the planet. And it's ticking even louder for us who live on islands. And I think this is something that we should keep in mind and never lose sight of in all our deliberations. And it is the youth, to end with what I started, it is in the youth that the hope for changing the course and starting to take corrective action to take the world back to safer levels of existence lies. So thank you for bearing with me. I hope you found it interesting. Malta's commitment to this initiative remains strong. And then I'll pass on to my friend Jeffrey to continue moderating the discussion. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Leslie, and good morning to everybody who's with us in the room, but more importantly to all of you who are outside. Thank you for spending the time with us. Our plan today is to take about 2 hours only. I think most people who I talk to tell me that after 2 hours, that's enough from a video conference. So I'm going to be the moderator today. We've got about 15 very short, no more than 5 to 7 minute presentations. I put together a slide presentation myself to give us a flavor of what this is all going to be about. Pratishta, if you could show the first slide, that would be great. Pratishta, I should say, is a former student from our first year of the diploma. We have a few of us, perhaps I'll start by saying this, we have a few of us here in Malta, not only Leslie, but we have Simon Karuna from our partner in ITS. We have Jocelyn from Les Roches, Hans from who is the registrar living on Gozo. And then we have some colleagues from Leslie's team in Malta, Tanya and Mary Rose and Ushi and Gordon, who is our technical wizard. Look, we said that these SEYS events, this is the third one we've held. And the most important element of it, for me at least, is to remember Maurice Strong, who was, and you'll see after this in a short collage we put together, he's the man who started the whole sustainable development movement. He was my friend for 25 years, and Leslie has very kindly said that I'm obsessed with the climate crisis, and it was Maurice Strong that gave me this obsession, and why we call this the SUN program. And if you look to the left of this slide, you'll see this is the this is the logo, which is, they said, Leslie, that a horse was a camel was a horse designed by a committee, and I think our logo is a little bit like that. But you can see there the cross of Malta, the SUN badge that we put together, the Sustainable Development Goals, because they are covering every aspect of life on the planet, including and especially Goal 13, which is climate action. And then this picture of Maurice Strong, who started it all and who did it for a hell of a long time. For 40 years, he was pushing this idea that climate change is really the biggest challenge that we face. So we're going to do three things today. We're going to have some reflection on Maurice Strong. We're going to talk about what we're trying to do at SUNx Malta, but not so much to talk about the details of it, but to give you an idea of where we're coming from and what our approach is to this attitude, to this whole issue, and hopefully to give you enough of an interest that you'll continue this journey with us, because it is a journey. It's not something that can be solved by meetings of this kind. These are just tiny steps. There are hundreds of thousands of meetings going on around the world, most of them outside tourism, which are focusing on how to deal with climate change. And we've decided, this is the second dot point you see, and we've decided that we will focus now on the poorest. We haven't done that, but I was involved in a major conference in Doha earlier this year, and that forced, you know, they say there's nothing so concentrates the mind as the prospects of being hanged on the morrow. Dr. Johnson said that. And I realized that if we wanted to make a contribution, we're not going to make that contribution in the European Union or the United States or China. But we could help the poorest, and the poorest need it the most, and they did the least to create the problem. So from here on in, we have decided that we will focus our attention on the 46 poorest countries of the world, the LDC, and in keeping with being in Malta, on small island states, because small island states are the most physically exposed to the massively changing impact of climate change. And then the last point, we will talk about our dash to zero and plan B thinking. When we signed the Glasgow Declaration and we were a launch signatory, we made the point that, yes, it's a good start, but it does not go far enough and it does not go fast enough. And we don't want to race to zero, we want to dash to zero. And we created an idea that the dash was a declaration, but then action. That's the A in dash. Declaration, action. The S stands for support. We will provide support. That's what SUNx Malta is designing itself to do. And H is hope. This is a very grim issue. I'm going to make that point throughout this discussion. But if you don't have hope, you really might as well give up now. And our hope, and Leslie and I, when we started this, our hope, we put at the bottom of our camel logo, plan for our kids. That's why we're having a youth summit. We aren't going to be here when the worst extremes of climate change hit, but our kids are, and our grandkids, and we need to have hope. And the things that we're doing now, even the tiny things in our sector, this is for our kids. And the last point on this slide is plan B. We believe everybody should have a plan B. As I get into this presentation, you will see why we believe this. But we don't think anybody has a plan B. We think everybody, for very valid reasons, has got a plan, a strategic plan A. But the strategic plan A mostly does not face up to reality. Mostly a strategic plan A is based on what our political masters are asking us to do and what they're doing outside tourism, but in the greater economy. And we think we need a plan B, and we'll talk about that throughout this seminar. But now what I would like to do is I'd like to ask Pratishtha, we put together a very short presentation which covers more effectively, I hope, what I've just said. Pratishtha, if you could play that, it would be great.
Climate change is the major existential challenge humanity faces. If we don't fix it, our grandkids will freeze or fry. The destructiveness of extreme weather is increasing dramatically, and resources for life, particularly water, food, and the air we breathe, are threatened more and more. Fiercer hurricanes, longer droughts, accelerating sea level rises, and massive storm surges threaten civilization as we know it, and with it, starvation, poverty, migration, and conflict. The world established a response path in 2015 in the Paris Accords and SDG 13 with a measured, nationally based, but globally coordinated structure focused on a worldwide 2050 carbon reduction target. Over time, this will be adapted to respond to the scientifically measured changing impacts of climate and weather patterns, the related SDG impacts, and the shifting geopolitical buy-in. Travel and tourism, as a lead global development agent, has to step up to the plate with actions. The more so as many of our core products are in the front line: transport, particularly aviation, coastal facilities, infrastructure, for example, will need radical transformation and support. We are not going far enough, fast enough. We need to be in the mainstream of change. Renewable energy focused, socially inclusive, resource efficient, cloud connected, and biodiversity conserving. It also means building this transformation into our education systems, from school through university. We can set the path, but it's the next generation that will have to tread it. Business as usual is not enough. Moderate change is not enough. Only total transformation is enough. SUNx, the strong universal network, has been established to make this happen and is building global partnerships under SDG 17 to create this change. Please join us at www.thesunprogram.com.
Maurice Strong came from a humble background in Oak Lake, Manitoba. His lack of formal education and his having to make his own way brought him in contact with the Inuit people and with organizations such as the YMCA. By the strength of his extraordinary personality, he single-handedly mobilized people and institutions to bring the environment to the forefront of the international conversation.
I must say I feel more at home here tonight than I have since I arrived in Stockholm. This conference is a 10-day conference of governments. And governments are moved to do what people want them to do and, in effect, what people force them to do. And governments will do about as much about these problems as they feel that people like you are going to require them to do.
At the United Nations Conference on the Human Environment in Stockholm 1972, he made his vision clear.
I believe that if we're going to succeed in this task of better managing our own activities on this planet, we have to do on a much larger scale what we started to do in Stockholm, and that is involve citizens, involve scientists, involve people in their private roles in the whole process by which society decides in which direction it has to move.
The conference brought together NGOs and governments in a bold and revolutionary move. It was, in fact, the first attempt at formalizing the international environmental movement.
The United Nations organization has learned a lot from this experience, and one of the things we've learned is that we need new and better techniques of relating ourselves to the citizens groups and the non-governmental organizations, and I think this conference will show us better how to do that kind of a job, and I hope that you will continue after Stockholm the activity that you've started here. Because if we stop here, if we let government stop here, if we let international organizations stop here, if we let people stop here, it won't be long before some of the worst predictions that we've been hearing may well be upon us.
The Stockholm Declaration broke new ground and created bold and revolutionary initiatives.
My own minimum expectation for the declaration is that it include the acceptance of responsibility on the part of nations for the consequences of their actions on the environment of others.
Out of Stockholm came the United Nations Environment Programme. Maurice agreed to set it up.
Man has sobered up somewhat, and the environment issue has made him realize that he does have to make very hard choices. He hasn't got it made. He can't have it always. He's got to decide, and in deciding, it's the deeper sense of values which is finally going to determine what he decides.
20 years later, in 1992, more than 100 heads of state gathered for the Earth Summit in Rio, once again under the leadership of Maurice Strong.
It was not as much optimism as excitement and expectation and hope. Hope that this World Conference, which attracted more world leaders than had ever assembled before, would in fact be able to move us off the dime onto a pathway to a more sustainable future, to help make a fundamental change of course in industrial civilization.
Maurice Strong had a way with words. His sentences were profound. They were poetry. His words inspiring others to follow in his path.
The environment crisis, perhaps most of all, makes it clear that man can no longer avoid the necessity of choice, because the choices we make are really going to determine the future course of human evolution on this planet. And while nobody can put a date by which we will have reached the point of no return, it seems very clear to me from all the evidence I've seen from the scientific world that the choices we make in this generation will really determine whether we make it or not. We've got the basis for change now, but we've got to push like hell to make sure it takes place.
Thanks. If you could show the next slide, Patricia. And I think the yellow bubble at the bottom says it all for tourism. We talk about climate change, but the reality is it's the weather that's changing. The summers are getting hotter. The floods are becoming more and more. People are getting a year's rain within a month, a day even sometimes. We read about typhoons in the United States at the same time as we hear about forest fires in Australia and droughts in Africa. And this quotation, of course, is from Bill Clinton when he said, "It's the economy stupid," and I've paraphrased it to say, "It's the weather stupid." And the real tragedy is nothing in the science suggests it's going to get better. It can, we'll see during the course of our discussions today, as one of our speakers is measuring the changes using the satellite data from the European and the American space satellites. It's a very clear projection that it's getting worse. And as long as we keep pumping carbon into the atmosphere, it lasts for 100 years. So it can only get more and more worse. If you show the next slide, Patricia. And I think our society and our industry particularly breathed a huge sigh of relief in Glasgow with the Glasgow Declaration and the fact that we have pretty much agreed to cut emissions in half by 2030 and to be net zero by 2050. And everybody's relaxing and saying, it's great, we have a plan. It's based on the IPCC figures, so it must be right. But if you could show the next slide, they only looked at half of what the IPCC was saying. The IPCC says we can't reach the 2030 target or the 2050 target unless we peak emissions by 2025. And this is the most unpopular thing in the world that I could say here and now, because that means doing really hard things. But the IPCC, this group of hundreds of scientists who've been pulling this stuff together for 30 years now, 40 years, they're saying, even if you peak emissions in 2025, by 2100, we might not still reach Paris 1.5. And Paris 1.5 is not going to be a happy time. Paris 1.5 means more hurricanes, more floods, more droughts, more climate refugees, more wars. And we're only looking at half of the picture because that's convenient. It's the lowest common denominator. Who wouldn't say we'll get to net zero by 2050? Because I for sure will be dead, and many of the other people signing those agreements are older than me. And that's why the Secretary General of the UN has said it's a code red. And if you could show the next slide, that's why we think we need a plan B. Yes, look to Paris 1.5 in 2050, but have something else up your sleeve just in case you find that you thought you had a tourism industry like they did in Dominica, and then you get a hurricane which wipes everything out. Or you get a flood in Europe like we had last year, and your source market starts to disappear. This is the reality of extreme weather. If you show the next slide, please, Pratishtha. At SUNx Malta, we are talking about a virtuous circle of change in which we can encourage and persuade companies, communities, and consumers to adopt a mindset of climate-friendly travel with Paris 1.5 and whatever SDG works for whatever country, because we're talking about action at a national level. This is what countries agreed at Paris. And we believe you need to move these entities together around this kind of a virtuous circle. If you could show the next slide, please. And over the past 2 years, since Leslie and I sat down at ITB and had so many wonderful meals together since that time, we put together a diploma course with our friends at ITS, the first one in the world, training young people, graduates, to buy into this kind of mindset. And the first thing we did, we set up a registry here in Malta with Hans, who thought he'd gone into retirement, but we put an end to that. And he's now the registrar. And over the course of today, you'll see the kind of things that we're putting together to try to encourage people from around the world to buy into this approach. If you could show the next slide, which I hope is the last one. As you can see in the red box, our plan is to move beyond what we've been doing to put in place chapters in each of the 46 poorest countries in September of this year. And we have at the moment, thanks to the generosity of our friends at ITS, we have one student from each of those countries who've almost completed the first year of our climate-friendly travel diploma. And in their second year, they will become interns, and as interns, they will create chapters in their country and pull together more young people, a little bit like the Catholic Church sent out its disciples. We'll try to be a bit more friendly and build up a group of people inside each of these countries advocating for the kind of change that we think is necessary and which can make tourism survive and indeed, to use the latest buzzword, thrive in this harsh world of the future. We've also created 2 independent entities, services to promote support to companies, and a club, and this is our most ambitious move, which we will be doing, to reach out to the traveling public, to reach out to consumers. And you'll hear about our idea of creating something better than throwing your money at carbon offsets, never seeing it again, adding it to that long list of items you get at the end of an airline booking system, where your money disappears into the ether, so you can sit next to the person you're traveling with. We think we could provide something better for consumers that will give them a real sense of participating in the change that they feel they need as individuals to help combat this problem. So I'm going to stop with that introduction. We've asked people to record a 5-minute presentation because we think that way we can at least get them to stick to 5 minutes. And also we can avoid the communication challenges you get because we've got people coming in from all over the world. And our first thing before we turn to the first speaker, we have a second small video we've created that tells the story much better, I think, than I can. I actually said that, Leslie.
I'm a university professor at Columbia University and a senior advisor at the United Nations on the Sustainable Development Goals. I am deeply troubled and concerned. We're living in a period of incredible disasters, hurricanes, floods, droughts hitting the world. My God, what are we doing? This is really dangerous. People need to understand this. There's going to be worse to come in the future, even if we get everything under control, because we have a process that is gradually going to warm the planet for some decades now. And as that warming comes, that's more energy that's going to fuel intense storms, cause more extreme heat waves, more floods, and more droughts. Unless we are very clear and agree globally that by the middle of this century, we have replaced fossil fuel with wind, solar, hydro, ocean, and other zero carbon forms of energy. I know how hard it is to get the world to change course. There are so many powerful interests. Our politics are short-term, often very corrupt. But what we've learned from big social change, whether it was the fight to end slavery, whether it's women's rights, whether it was the struggle to end colonization, it's a big task and all parts of society have to be engaged. Civil action, absolutely. The divestment campaign, consumer boycotts, litigation against bad behaviors, all crucial. Businesses, especially the ones that are clever, are going to say, the world's going in a different direction. I want to get ahead of the market so that I'm there. So business, very, very important. Government, vital. If we're going to have rule of law, we need government. We need activists in business, activists in government, activists in civil society to be taking the lead and helping all of society to understand this is real. Let's move.
A year and a half ago, I didn't speak to anyone unless I really had to. But then I found a reason to speak. Since then, I've given many speeches and learned that when you talk in public, you should start with something personal or emotional to get everyone's attention. Say things like, our house is on fire, I want you to panic, or how dare you. But today I will not do that, because then those phrases are all that people focus on. They don't remember the facts, the very reason why I say those things in the first place. We no longer have time to leave out the science. For about a year, I have been constantly talking about our rapidly declining carbon budgets over and over again. But since that is still being ignored, I will just keep repeating it. In Chapter 2, on page 108 in the SR 1.5 IPCC report that came out last year, it says that if we are to have a 67% chance of limiting the global temperature rise to below 1.5 degrees Celsius, we had on January 1st, 2018, 420 gigatons of CO2 left to emit in that budget. And of course, that number is much lower today, as we emit about 42 gigatons of CO2 every year, including land use. With today's emissions levels, that remaining budget will be gone within about 8 years. These numbers aren't anyone's opinions or political views. This is the current best available science. And I still believe that the biggest danger is not inaction. The real danger is when politicians and CEOs are making it look like real action is happening when, in fact, almost nothing is being done apart from clever accounting and creative PR. I have been fortunate enough to be able to travel around the world. And my experience is that the lack of awareness is the same everywhere, not the least amongst those elected to lead us. There is no sense of urgency whatsoever. Our leaders are not behaving as if we were in an emergency. In an emergency, you change your behavior. If there is a child standing in the middle of the road and cars are coming at full speed, you don't look away because it's too uncomfortable. You immediately run out and rescue that child. And without that sense of urgency, how can we, the people, understand that we are facing a real crisis? And if the people are not fully aware of what is going on, then they will not put pressure on the people in power to act. And without pressure from the people, our leaders can get away with basically not doing anything, which is where we are now. And around it goes. In just 3 weeks, we will enter a new decade. A decade that will define our future. Right now, we are desperate for any sign of hope. Well, I'm telling you, there is hope. I have seen it. But it does not come from the governments or corporations. It comes from the people. The people who have been unaware but are now starting to wake up. And once we become aware, we change. People can change. People are ready for change, and that is the hope because we have democracy. And democracy is happening all the time, not just on election day, but every second and every hour. It is public opinion that runs the free world. In fact, every great change throughout history has come from the people. We do not have to wait. We can start the change right now. We, the people. Thank you.
So there you have the basis of what we want to talk about today. And to kick off, I'm going to ask that you listen to Alain Saint-Ange. He's the former Minister of Tourism in the Seychelles, a small island state which is big on tourism. And he's been an active part of the global tourism initiatives for as long as I can remember, which Leslie will tell you is a very long time. So if you could play Alan, it's a very short video, but it's a passionate video.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm sending this message all the way from the Seychelles, a group of islands that forms part of the small island developing states. It is important for me, a former member of the Seychelles National Assembly, a former candidate for the post of Secretary General for the United Nations World Tourism Organization, the UNWTO, and a presidential candidate in the 2020 elections. Today I'm appealing to the world. Let us work together. Let us be united to ensure that what we have is protected for the future. Let us be seen as good custodians of what we have been blessed with. The world needs us. The world needs each and every one of us to play his part, to ensure that our world remains the world that our children and grandchildren can live in. Let us be united for a just cause. Thank you very much.
And I'm going to follow this with a much more practical message from a new friend, Mossadegh Bailly, who is the chief executive and founder of the Azalai Hotel chain, which is a chain of high-class hotels in West Africa. I met Mossadegh at the LDC 5 summit, and I was impressed by his vision, and he's going to talk to us now.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear youth, bonjour. My name is Mossadegh Bailly, and I am the founder of Azalai Hotels Group, which is a hospitality company spanning in 7 West African countries. Tourism is an industry which creates wealth, which creates millions of jobs all over the world. It accounts for close to 10% of worldwide GDP, and more than 300 million jobs are created from this industry. It's also seen as an industry which can help sustain and accomplish the 17 SDGs. Hospitality and the tourism accounts also for emissions. It's widely recognized that the hospitality and tourism industry accounts for roughly 3% of gas emission in the world. So it's a challenge for our industry, which we have to tackle. And the stakeholders have done so lately. First, customer is much more environmental friendly and environmental cautious, and is putting pressure on the industry and the industry leaders to make sure that when they come to the hotel and the touristic site, that these investments do respect the environment. The second player is the financier, who before financing a project, a touristic project or a hospitality project, make sure that the project does respect the environment. And of course, the third stakeholder, the third player is the industry player himself. We, the hoteliers, we make sure that our hotels, our touristic sites do respect the environment. And for that, we develop many projects, like what we do in the bathrooms, like what we do with the hotel bedroom linens, what we do with the garbage collection, what we do in planting trees in the hotel. These programs have been developed by many industrialists, including Azalea Hotels. Ladies and gentlemen, the hospitality and tourism industry is a key job provider in the world. And for that, we do need to support that industry. But we also do need to make sure that the industry reduces its carbon footprint on the environment. And for that, we as stakeholders, we as players, the customer, the financier, the industrialist, the public opinion, the government, we must get together to make sure that this industry keeps creating wealth, keeps creating jobs, but also keeps protecting the environment. Because we all know that we have just one planet, and we don't have a second one or the third one. So I call on all my colleagues who are in this industry to put ESG on top of the priority, to make sure that our operations are greener, to make sure that our customers are well informed on all the action that we are taking in our operations, to make sure that the public opinion does know exactly what the industry is doing to reduce its carbon footprint. By doing so, we will make this industry a sustainable industry. We will sustain economic growth. We will sustain job creation, but we will also sustain the environment and have less carbon footprint on the environment. I thank you for listening to me. I wish all of you a great and successful summit. Au revoir.
And now some words from our friend Hans, not from the room here, but from his beautiful house in Gozo.
Hello, and good afternoon. I'm Hans Friedrich, and I'm the registrar of the climate-friendly travel community. I'm not a tourism expert. In fact, my career has been in natural resources management and international development. I've lived about, 12 years in Africa and 10 years in Asia, working mainly for the International Union for Conservation of Nature, working with what we now call nature-based solutions. You know, how can you work with nature for sustainable development? I started in Africa and I worked in countries where tourism is really important, Botswana and Kenya. I then moved to Vietnam, and in fact, if I remember well, in Vietnam, I was in charge of the development of the first sustainable tourism strategy, and then moved to Bangkok, where I worked on issues on the Mekong River. I spent about 10 years at headquarters of IUCN, partially as the director for Europe, and I then moved to Beijing in China, where I worked as the CEO of an international organization that promotes bamboo for sustainable development. So sustainable development has always been part of my work. Tourism, not so much. So you might argue, well, why am I then part of SUNx Malta? Why am I promoting climate-friendly travel? And I think the issue is that nature, natural resources, and climate change are so intricately linked. You know, Sustainable Development Goal 13, climate change, 14, life underwater, 15, life on land. They are all linked because healthy nature can help you to mitigate the effects of climate change. But on the other hand, climate change can really accelerate the degradation of natural resources. So there is that real connection, in a way, between climate change and nature. Tourism, of course, also has so much to do with nature, with environment, with landscape. So to work on a program that looks at the interaction really between tourism and climate change, and tourism and sustainability, is something that made a lot of sense to me. So when Jeffrey asked me to join this program, Climate Friendly Travel, I was very interested. In addition, as I said earlier, I live in Malta. I actually live on the island of Gozo, which is part of Malta. And our program is supported by the Malta Tourism Authority. So that's another reason why it made so much sense to become part of this. Now, my role is the registrar. And that means that I'm basically in charge of the registry, which is really the entry point into climate-friendly travel. If you want to join our community, you list your company on the climate-friendly travel registry. It's a website. You basically go on the website and you list your property, you fill in a few forms and a few windows, and you submit that to me, and you are then part of our community. We will then help you. On the one hand, we can help you to get the message out. And to be frank, there are many smaller tourism entities, and larger as well, but we mainly work with the smaller ones, that have some fantastic work in sustainability and sometimes in climate change. So we can help you to get that message out. We have, you know, social media channels, we have podcasts, we have a magazine. But we can also help you with your sustainability planning, because we have partners with companies that can help. We have a lot of information on the website, and we can always talk to each other. And I think that's the other thing. You know, I'm hoping that the community will grow and that it will become a community of companies that can also talk to each other, so that what a hotel in Africa is doing may be interesting for a lodge in South America. What a travel agency in the USA does may be relevant for a similar organization in India. So it really is building a community, helping. And the other thing what we're doing is training young people, and SEYS in a way is part of that. So for me, it's really exciting to be part of a program that has its feet on the ground. You know, we're not just talking about declarations and theory. We're actually working with companies to see what they can do and how we can help them, and to look at how the next generation, how young people can actually, how we can help young people to understand these rather complex interactions, and basically work with them. So altogether, a very exciting program. Very happy to be part of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hans. You look so much more relaxed on beautiful Gozo. And now, given that this is a youth event, we thought it would be a good idea to hear from somebody who was younger than 70. And one of our students from the diploma course from India, Shiftin Paul, is going to talk to us now about what she experienced from taking the diploma.
Hello and welcome everyone to the third annual Strong Earth Youth Summit. My name is Shiftin Paul and I am a national strong climate champion from India and also an alumni of the Climate Friendly Travel Diploma. I would like to share a little about my experience as a Climate Friendly Travel Diploma student. Basically, in this journey, I've gained a deep understanding of the challenges faced by the travel industry in the context of climate change, as well as the opportunities for sustainable tourism. Through this program, I have developed the knowledge and the skills needed to promote sustainable travel practices, to reduce the carbon footprint of travel, and support the transition to a more sustainable future for the travel industry and the planet. The SUNx program is a pioneering initiative aimed to advancing the cause of sustainable travel and tourism, and one of the key offerings of this program is the Climate Friendly Travel Diploma, which is designed to equip the travel industry professionals and students like me with the knowledge and the skills we need to make a positive impact on the environment. The entire diploma covered a wide range of topics related to sustainable tourism, including the climate change context majorly, also the biodiversity and the preservation that can be carried about. The program brought together different students from different diversities from all over the world together with the same interest to learn and work towards the same one goal. The program enlightened us with practical tips and strategies to reducing the carbon footprint of travel, such as using public transportation, reducing waste, and choosing eco-friendly accommodation. The SUNx program is committed to creating a more sustainable future for the travel industry and the planet as a whole, and the Climate Friendly Travel Diploma is an important part of that mission. The major goal of this program is to support the implementation of the Paris Agreement and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals by promoting sustainable travel and tourism practices, to advance climate-friendly travel education and training globally and develop sustainable tourism strategies and programs, to support the development of a global network of climate-friendly travel professionals, students, stakeholders, including government, NGOs, and private sector organizations, to create a more sustainable future for the travel industry and the planet as a whole by reducing the carbon footprints of travel and promoting responsible tourism practices. The main of the organizations has been working towards the Dash to Zero, which is a flagship initiative of the program that aims to reduce the carbon footprint of travel to zero. This ambitious goals look forward to be achieved through a combination of education, innovation, and collaboration. Dash to Zero encourages travel industry stakeholders, including government, NGOs, and private sector organizations, to work towards a same common vision, which is the sustainable tourism. The initiative focuses on practical solutions such as carbon offsetting, sustainable transportation, and energy efficient practices that can be implemented by individual travelers and companies wherever they are. By promoting climate-friendly travel practices and reducing the footprints of the travel, Dash to Zero is helping to create a more sustainable future for the travel industry and the planet. It is a timely response to the Code Red warning on the climate change and is helping to mitigate the impact. The initiative is committed working towards the goals of the Paris Agreement and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Recently, I also got an opportunity to attending the World Travel and Tourism Council's Global Summit in Riyadh as a youth delegate. In this whole journey, I can say that it was a once-in-a-lifetime experience as a participant in this prestigious event, as I had the opportunity to engage with the global leaders and the experts in the travel industry. Also, to learn about the perspectives and the latest trends and innovations in the sustainable tourism. Through my interactions with my fellow youth delegates, I gain new insights into the role of young people in shaping the future of this travel industry and the importance of engaging the youth in the global impact of the combat climate change and promote sustainable tourism practices, in which where we could see the most of the youth faces standing in the front line to work towards it. By attending this program, it has motivated me more towards to pursue my passion for sustainable travel and tourism and to put in force my learnings for the climate friendly travel. Some of the key highlights of the event that I would like to share is that the summit was entirely focused on the theme of resetting the world in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic, with a particular emphasis on the role of travel and tourism industry in building a more resilient and a sustainable future. Speakers included government officials, travel industry leaders, and experts in a sustainable innovation and technology. The key topics discussed included the need of sustainable tourism practices, the importance of public-private partnerships, and the role of technology in transforming the travel and tourism industry. The summit also addressed the challenges of the climate change and the urgent need for the travel industry to reduce its carbon footprint to embrace the sustainable practices. The highlight of the event was the launch of the Green Initiative and the Middle East Green Initiative, which aims to provide and promote sustainable development and to combat climate change in the region. The attendees also had the opportunity to participate in interactive workshops, networking events, and to learn from the leading experts in the travel industry. It also emphasized for the need of collaboration and partnership among all the stakeholders in the region throughout the world also, and including the government, businesses, and civil societies. Overall, the Global Summit in Riyadh provided a platform for meaningful dialogue, innovation, and action towards a more sustainable and resilient future for the travel industry and the world. The implementation of the sustainable technologies in the region and innovative tourism developments are highly motivated to the goal of climate-friendly travel and tourism in the region. Example, the line which has been built by the organization called NEOM. Also, we could see more sustainable infrastructure that is being built around the region. As the fastest growing tourism market in the world and the largest levels of investment, we delegates were impressed by the vision and also had the opportunity to learn more from the leaders of the kingdom's rapidly growing sector. Lastly, I would like to add how all of us, the climate-friendly travel diploma students, along with youth delegates from all around the world, could enjoy the Saudi culture, could envision the sustainable practices that have been put in place in the cultural properties and the heritage properties as well. We could enjoy and learn a lot during this trip. Lastly, I would like to say thank you.
Yeah, I think that's such a nice element of what we do. And Simon, with you here from ITS, I think it was a terrific experience for these students. And also, I guess I should say thank you to my friend Gloria Guevara, who is leading an initiative in Saudi Arabia, which brought the summit together. And I've been privileged to be an envoy for that center that she's creating in Saudi Arabia. And it's eye-opening what they're doing in that part of the world. And the big focus is on sustainability and climate resilience. Now we're going to shift to another part of the world, and not to a student, but to a professor. Bo Pelek is one of our partners from the University of Toronto, and he has brought into our ecosystem some of his PhD graduate students who took a look at our program and said that they felt they could enhance it by bringing some of their business management skills into play. And I'm going to ask my friend Bo to say a few words about this. He really is a crazy, mad professor.
Hi, my name is Bo Pellick. I teach an experiential course at the University of Toronto Business School, and we got engaged with SUNx because we both have the same desperation regarding working collaboratively on a climate-friendly travel solution. Now, we've all seen the stats that global travel is increasing, not decreasing, notwithstanding the code red status of climate change. And in terms of any easy answer, consider the paradox that LDCs and small island states are both disproportionately economically reliant on travel and tourism, while disproportionately affected by climate change. Now, we've seen the growth in the use of offsets in the context of this problem, and I think it's conceded at this stage that offsets are of limited value. Perhaps sustainable aviation fuels and biofuels represent one of the shorter-term remedies, as they both relate to the existing aircraft fleets, but they are lacking in production infrastructure and they carry their own complexities. A difficult problem, but one that the Climate Friendly Travel Club will be engaged with. One of the common characteristics of offsets and SAF is that someone has to pay. There's an economic disincentive or cost, and typically this is borne by the airline or the traveler, not necessarily by the hospitality industry as a whole. So I want to talk about this other half, because approximately half of the carbon footprint associated with global tourism is local. It's hotel, foods, the local hospitality industry, and it could also be materially affected by guest and traveler behavior. Hold that thought. This is the kind of on-the-ground, bottom-up work that students can in fact engage with. It very much aligns with carbon abatement hierarchies of remove, reduce, replace, reuse, recycle, and hopefully leaving nothing left to offset. In almost a virtual circle sense, these initiatives either have a positive payback or are substitution expenses or rely on changes in behavior at almost no cost. Now, SUNx has conceived of this type of grassroots activity, starting with building and recruiting a directory of small to mid-sized hotels and other service providers and hospitality industry players that wanted to make a commitment to a progressive set of carbon abatement initiatives. SUNx also created an educational curriculum for climate-friendly travel ambassadors in each of these countries to help those smaller hospitality industry players with their initiatives. Now, our starting point was to engage with some of the small hotels registered on the SUNx directory, and as a pilot project, simply ask them about their efforts, their initiatives, their goals and objectives, their priorities. And what happened next was amazing. Now, we're not local and underground. We simply asked, how can we help? Their sincerity and commitment was amazing. Perhaps as small hotels lacking in resources, they were welcoming of any help or support that our students could provide. And in short order, this evolved into a series of deliverables related to initiatives such as a public-facing report that was more oriented towards engagement with guests and employees, less so any statutory or audit reporting-like obligations, a planning document highlighting potential next phases of existing initiatives as well as incremental initiatives, an FAQ that is especially handy for guest engagement, be it text, web, or email, an online survey, an internal blog and content for engaging with employees, which ultimately may evolve to extend to interacting with guests, a calendar to map initiatives and better plan engagement, and helping to find and write grants to fund carbon abatement initiatives. The students also created a master blog, a content library to share secondary research and the ideas and insights and initiatives of all participating hotels. It was heartening to hear when a small hotelier said that after reviewing the master blog, they picked up 3 ideas to add to their list of active initiatives. The students also undertook highly targeted research based on questions posed by the hotels in the pilot, all adding to the shared content. Finally, all these features are being tech-enabled by way of template and database tools that allow the next students to more quickly create draft content for the next hotels. Everything students do is being viewed through the lens of engagement and achieving scale. Everything done has been because of the SUNx Foundation of the Climate Friendly Travel Directory and Educational Curriculum. In terms of what's next, as the curriculum and internships expand, both in terms of the SUNx program directly and or partnerships with experiential programs like ours, we really see the light in educating and engaging with the next generation. What I find exciting, as we connect with X number of students, we can connect with more hotels and hospitality players. And then we're connecting with X number of guests. And each case, we're connecting with X number of employees. It's exponential. These students and guests actually engage with the hotels in their initiatives and commitment. They don't just take the easy way out by writing an offset check. And they go out into the world and hopefully spread the message. I want to end with this hopeful insight related to employees who go back to their communities and themselves engage their families and neighbors in any number of local grassroots initiatives. And we're starting to see this local activity naturally occurring. And a bigger picture, a bigger regional picture is emerging. In these particular countries, climate-friendly tourism has to be supported as an engine for sustainable local development.
And I think Bob Pellick made one really important point, which came out of their research that I hadn't seen from any of the stuff we've been doing before. And he said that if you can get the employees interested in this activity, particularly in small hotels operating in small islands or least developed countries, they go back into their own communities and they become kind of ambassadors for this whole mindset. So they've picked up on that, and they're now trying to develop a sort of support service for the employees in these establishments. And then I'm going to move, and it's a nice sort of juxtaposition. I talked in the earlier slide about how we're going to create a chapter in every one of the 46 countries in September by flipping our students around and turning them from students into interns. And they'll have and this is part of the diploma requirement from ITS, that they have to have a one-year internship. And during COVID, when we had our first diploma, we found it impossible to find internships. So we kind of took them on ourselves. And now we've structured this to produce chapter leaders. And I'm going to ask Patricia to play the next presentation. One of our students, Maud from Masikaya from Zimbabwe, has really excelled in the program this year. So we've asked her to become a coordinator of these 50 chapters. And Maud is going to talk about how she intends to do this.
Good day or good evening, depending on where you are on planet Earth. That's the only planet we have. My name is Maud Masiwa, and I am SUNx Malta's chapter coordinator. I get the opportunity to speak to you today about something truly exciting: the climate-friendly travel chapters. You've heard about the climate-friendly travel community that we are building with a focus on education, action, and support. Now, to go a step further, I want to talk to you about the first climate-friendly travel chapters that we are setting up as part of our pivot to the poorest, the least developed countries and the small island states, who most need tourism to build development. Simply put, a CFT chapter is a national focal point that helps in tourism's fight against existential climate change. Now, we're going to launch a chapter in each of the 46 least developed countries in September of this year. Each chapter will have a leader who is a strong climate champion, taking the SUNx Malta CFT diploma with ITC Malta. These leaders are halfway through their course and are entering a second-year internship. Working with the SUNx Malta team, The leaders will initiate a program that is locally based. This will help the larger community gain an understanding of CFT and how to apply it in a local context. They will be well positioned to build over time a CFT community from the local travel industry companies and ultimately the consumer. Let's take, for example, the following scenario I would like to paint for you. A chapter leader in Zimbabwe decides on a cleanup and greening exercise at Lake Kariba on the border between Zambia and Zimbabwe. Fly fishing was once a very popular activity, but because of climate change, there has been a serious deterioration in the number and the health of the animals. And of course, the fish, part of the mainstay of Kariba. The climate leaders in Zimbabwe and Zambia will work together. First, to encourage a group of like-minded young local people to become part of the chapters. Secondly, to build a project to respond to the degradation and engage the tourism sector. They will activate this by working and linking up with the sector, including encouraging companies to join the SUNx Malta registry and the Climate Friendly Travel Club, as well as use climate-friendly travel services for support. The chapter leader will also gather data and interact with various stakeholders on the ground, as well as working with me as their overall chapter coordinator to ensure that the expertise that has been built over time in SUNx Malta's team and context can be effectively factored in. It is a great opportunity to put all the knowledge that has been gained through the CFT diploma course into action, and through the internship, translate it into practical action in destinations, to stimulate social entrepreneurship for climate-friendly travel and build a plan for our kids. The scheduled launch of the chapters is in September 2023, and we are working behind the scene, putting the framework together. Thank you. Have a good day.
I hope you can see from that how encouraged we are by the innovation and the spirit that's coming from the students themselves. And I think it's a new piece in the whole system. And now my friend and colleague, Ollie Wheatcroft, is going to talk about how we're trying to bring those partners that we have who provide services into that ecosystem as well.
Hi, my name's Ollie Wheatcroft. I'm one of the co-founders of a new company called Climate Friendly Travel Services, which has been set up to help to deliver climate change solutions for the travel and tourism industry. We created Climate Friendly Travel Services when we realized what an amazing collection of sustainability tools and services that we built up through partnerships made by SUNx Malta. The problem was that many of them require a commercial partnership in order to be able to deliver them. As SUNx Malta is a not-for-profit organisation, we decided to set up a for-profit company that could effectively market and deliver these partners' climate solutions. It's a diverse collection of services and products which help companies and destinations transition to a 1.5 degree future. They range from climate resilience analysis, emissions measurement and management, to climate-friendly travel apps to better promote climate action being taken by tourism destinations and companies. We work with cities, national tourism boards and travel companies to identify the right opportunities to support their climate and sustainability strategy, identify suitable solutions and support them on a pathway to a zero emissions future. And in doing so, we're building our climate-friendly travel community and strengthening our links with consumers who are a crucial part of the ecosystem, as they're the ones that drive the demand for change. So why is this important? Well, every country has its responsibility under the Paris Agreement and their nationally determined contributions, or NDCs, to reduce emissions. The travel and tourism sector is a key part of this process, and like other sectors, it's currently not acting quickly enough. We help our clients to identify the right tools and services to make effective changes to their business or destination, which will make the biggest reduction to their greenhouse gas emissions. The services that we offer range from sustainability and climate planning support, energy and waste efficiency, to promoting off-season travel. They've all been selected because of the fact that they are leaders in their fields, delivering innovative tools and services. This slide shows a selection of some of those tools and products and services. They range from things like hotel auditing for crisis and climate resilience, working with accommodation providers to identify the areas which need to be addressed most quickly, and then helping to lead those service providers or accommodation providers to identify the best solutions. It also includes apps, and there's two here. The one in the bottom left is all about how to promote and effectively enhance the destination visitor experience and link through to product which is showing a commitment to climate-friendly travel. And we have an amazing partner in the US who is delivering these maps, which are ideally suited to adventure tourism locations. They provide a seamless visitor experience, which very much is about enhancing the things which the destination offers, but then also linking into the product in terms of the accommodation, the tours, the visitor attractions, again, which are all registered their commitment to the principles of climate-friendly travel on the climate-friendly travel registry. The one on the right is about augmented visitor reality experiences, and it uses technology on your smartphone in an easy-to-use app to enhance and to recreate the cultural attractions of that destination as if they were in their prime. It allows you to use your smartphone to walk through any particular cultural attraction and to see that particular building or site as if it had just been created. They are amazing, and they're very much linked into the whole climate-friendly travel destination visitor experience in terms of helping visitors to get the most out of their stay, but to do it in a way which links directly to a destination climate-friendly travel strategy.
Yeah, and this gives me the opportunity to also thank Ollie. He's been there from the beginning when there were just two of us, and he's been absolutely vital to the development of SUNx Malta through the last 2 or 3 years. So thank you, Ollie.
Somebody raised his hands.
Yeah, somebody's raised their hands, Leslie's pointed out, and we have a session at the end, and I think it makes more sense. You please be the first speaker when we open up at the end. We'll try and keep this within a 2 to 2.5 hour time frame, so you'll get an opportunity then. The next speaker is Jed Brown, who is a recent addition to our team. I've known Jed for a long time when he was the marketing director at Roches, which is a major airline and airport speed dating system, is about the best way to describe it. It's where airlines and airports come together to fix their routes for the coming season. And Jed was involved with that, and he also has set up his own company called Low Season Traveller, which takes advantage of those times when hospitality companies would like to see more travellers But he's agreed to join us to become the chief executive of what we call the Climate Friendly Travel Club, and he's going to talk about that now.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jed Brown, and I'm here to speak to you today about the Climate Friendly Travel Club. I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully you can see that now. There we go. So the Climate Friendly Travel Club was a solution which we have been working on for some time to the problem which the world has of how to facilitate better and fairer tourism in a climate-friendly way. We know that there is a rapidly growing middle class, particularly in the global north. And we know that when people achieve middle class status, they have their own home, their own house, their own car, their kids in education, and more people are being elevated out of poor and vulnerable status into middle class and rich status, which is a good thing. In September 2018, a remarkable day in human history, we saw for the very first time the middle class and rich outnumber the poor and vulnerable. And this is set to continue, which is a good thing. There is, of course, a north-south wealth gap. The green and the dark green you can see here is the relatively wealthy. The red, the orange, and the very, very pale colors tend to be the poorer nations. So there's still a big divide in the world. But another 1 billion will join the global middle class in the next 8 years. And this is from a number of sources, but this particular one is from the Brookings Institute, which is a think tank on such matters. Most of this growth of the middle class is going to come from Asia. We know that 88% of the next billion entrants into the middle class will be from Asia, 380 million in India, 350 million in China. So a lot of growth. And we know that when they achieve middle class status, they will travel. The Chinese international travelers in 2000 numbered only 10 million. As they've got wealthier and wealthier and joined middle class status, in 2017, 145 million trips were made by the Chinese. By 2030, it's anticipated to be 400 million. So a huge amount of traveling will be done. And this is going to lead to more flights. And Boeing and Airbus have planned for this. They are planning to increase their aircraft fleet size and double it by 2040. And that's per the Boeing and Airbus Outlook reports, which are publicly available. So on the plus side, a lot of this, which is the good stuff from tourism, 9% of the global GDP, 1 in 11 jobs worldwide is down to tourism. Tourism is tremendously important for global economies. So we're going to get more of that, which is great. But it's also going to mean more of this, a larger carbon footprint of global tourism. And this is the carbon footprint of global tourism as it stands. 49% of it is on transport, you will notice, quite a large amount. And again, there's a similar north-south divide on that. This is a map to show the per capita CO2 emissions from aviation, tourism adjusted. And as you can see, no great surprise, most of the global emitters are again from the Northern Hemisphere. So what to do about this? Well, carbon offsetting has been suggested and mooted for quite a while now. Is it a good start?
The challenge we have is so a lot of times the emissions as we did in the pre-industrial era. And most of these carbon offset projects are about planting trees. There is not room on the planet to plant 4,000 times as many trees. It simply can't be the answer. And the problem with it is it's the easy solution. It's the solution that if you're sitting in the C-suite, you can write a check and check the box and have a marketing message that I've offset all my car, but you really haven't done anything.
That's right. That airline CEO is right.
So even the airlines know that carbon offsetting is not actually a feasible way to get out of this problem. But despite this, the carbon offset market, the voluntary market, is growing massively. In 2021, it was worth $2 billion US. By 2030, it's anticipated to be between 10 and 40 billion US dollars. So the big questions: is there a better way for consumers to help the tourism industry to mitigate the climate crisis and use tourism as a positive development catalyst? We believe that there is, and that's why we formulated the Climate Friendly Travel Club, which is a club which helps travelers to respond to their climate conscience. And we do that by investing in sustainable aviation fuel, which is widely recognized as being a far better way to respond to the legitimate concerns about flying. In a nutshell, for the members, we're creating a climate-friendly travel loyalty club where travelers join from as little as €5 per month. The members get access to exclusive offers and benefits from our climate-friendly travel strategic partners from day one. And this is the really important part. The members get credited with €120 to spend on climate-friendly travel with our climate-friendly travel partners at the end of year 2. Effectively, they get their money back. It's not money down the drain as with carbon offsetting. They're actually getting their money back at the end of year 2 in the form of vouchers to spend on climate-friendly travel. The membership fees that they pay go directly 100% into robust and reputable climate-friendly investments in sustainable aviation fuel. And the members in this way are making a direct impact on sustainable solutions to the impacts of their travel and indeed their future travel. So for the members, the traveler joins the club, they get exclusive benefits, they get a loyalty reward at the end of year 2 of the money back that they've invested, and they get to be able to spend that on more sustainable, responsible travel through our members. 100% of the membership fees go directly into blue chip sustainable aviation fuel. The members directly impact future climate-friendly travel. And that means the members can travel more, which is a good thing. And it also, of course, means that we're talking about compensating and not offsetting. And that's a really big difference. For our climate-friendly travel partners, they're going to be getting access to a growing global audience of climate-friendly travelers. They can provide exclusive offers and benefits for our members, and the climate-friendly travel partners can take member bookings via our member booking engine using a secure digital wallet with their credits. And strategic partners are proactively encouraging climate-friendly travel to their destination or their property, which has got to be a good thing. For our destination partners, like at the tourism authorities and the tourism boards, they're ensuring that their destination is growing its tourism in a responsible way. They're also ensuring that whilst promoting tourism and possibly aviation, if they're an island destination, these destinations are seen as equally promoting solutions to the climate crisis. And these destinations become members of the wider SUNx group family with all of the resources and collateral which comes with this. And in this way, we are actively supporting the 46 least developed countries in the world because we recognize that they need the economic impact of tourism more than any other nations. My name's Jed Brown. I want to thank you very much for your attention, and I want to wish you all the best for the rest of the event.
Yeah, I've heard it said that carbon offsets can best be described as the man who says he's going to give up smoking, and then he pays somebody in Africa to stop smoking, and he keeps on smoking. So we're very excited about this idea of the club. It really, in its most simple terms, if you pay an offset to an airline, you have no idea what's happening with it. And you don't know if the money is going to the airline, if it's going to an indigenous group of people. You don't know if the trees that are planted are going to last for the 30 odd years, which is needed to compensate for your carbon for that flight. So our idea is that we'll just create a loyalty club, just like the airline's loyalty club, and you'll be able to receive the benefits of your money in the form of special deals from those people who join the registry. That makes it, again, a virtuous circle. So we have a couple more speakers. We have actually only one more recorded speech here, two actually. One from a colleague that I've only come across recently, thanks to my friend Tanya at Malta Tourism Authority. And this is Tarek Habib, who runs an incredible small company in the south of France called Murmuration, and they do brilliant data visualization. They take data from satellites and they show historically changes in land use and topographical kind of issues. And I'm very grateful to Tanya and for Leslie to introducing me to Tarek. We're not only going to use him on this project, but I mentioned before the Sustainable Tourism Global Center in Saudi Arabia, where we have created a tourism IPCC, the TPCC, and we've brought together 63 climate scientists and tourism scientists to work together to really do a proper definition of what the impact of tourism is on the climate and what the impact of climate is on tourism. And this will be neutral and it will be objective. And I'm pretty sure that we will find some common ground with Tarek and his company in showing this in a very clear and simple graphic form. So over to Tarek. He's also a really nice guy. He's a good guy. He's a good guy to go out for a meal with, Leslie, right?
Good morning to everybody from the SEYS team. From sunny Toulouse to sunny Malta. Well, you cannot really see the sun now because I'm in the office, but trust me, Toulouse is quite sunny. Not as nice as Malta though. My name is Tarek Habib. I'm the chairman and CEO of a company called Emission, a company based in southwest of France, specialized in environmental quantification dedicated to sustainable tourism. We work with authorities from all around the globe, and we're proud to work with the MTA team from Malta. While working with these authorities, we found that there's a gap, a knowledge gap related to the travelers actually. 75% of travelers in France declare that they want to travel in a sustainable way. This percentage is a little bit lower in Europe. It's about 65 or 70%. But all declare the same problem, is that there is a knowledge problem. They want to travel sustainably, but they cannot really find suppliers. So these would be hotels, travel agencies, tour guides, for example, who act in a sustainable way. They don't have the information. So we decided to create a platform that is called flokeo.com. Flokeo is dedicated to sustainable tourism, and its objective is very simple, is to put travelers in direct contact with professionals from the tourism industry who are keen on sustainability. We're not looking for the first of the class, but at least that each one of the professionals actually shows his or her commitment towards sustainable tourism. The platform, flokeo.com, is built around the core values of sustainability. So first, environment, obviously. This is a part where Emission brings in its own indicators, where on each page of each one of the professionals, we can see the environmental status of the area they operate. So for the hotel, it will be its location. For the travel agency, it will be the area where they operate, etc., etc. And also, the professional would put his own commitments towards sustainability via a simple way. It's a chart that they fill in, and then they can provide any other additional information regarding actions, for example, that they deploy on the ground in order to support environmental sustainability of the area where they operate. Second pillar, economic. So we decided since the very beginning to build Flokeo on a subscription-based model where the professional actually pays a fee in order to appear on the platform and benefit from dedicated communication services. That's quite important because we are not using the budgets in order to promote flokeo.com, but we're using the budgets in order to promote the professional himself or herself, obviously. So this way they have direct return on investment when they, for example, when it comes to communication, we do online seminars, online events as well, like cooking classes, online dancing classes, etc. But also posts on social media, etc., depending on the service that they select. The third pillar is a social pillar for sustainability. And actually what we build with Flokeo and the Flokeo partners is a network of partners all around the globe. It's a real active network where there are dedicated tools for communication. There is a monthly meeting where we discuss together a key challenge, for example, for sustainability, or a key practical challenge, operational challenge that they're facing in a specific area, and so on. We hope that based on these actions, so be it the social, economic, or environmental pillars of sustainability, that the travelers will find the most suitable professional for their needs that is totally in line with their own personal commitments, I would say. Third, finally, this is also a dimension that we've put in place that wasn't as successful at the first place, but we will undertake these actions again. It's what we call Flokeo funding, where we had put in place a crowdfunding platform where actually travelers can come and support specific professionals, for example, actions on the ground, be it solidarity with local communities, for example, reforestation of specific areas, but it can also be enhancements of the energy, for example, consumption of the hotel, etc., etc. We hope that these actions will support the sector as a whole in order to transform into more sustainability and to support the global actions that we all need to undertake in order to ensure the future of our industry. Thanks a lot for listening. I hope you enjoyed this, and do not hesitate to get in touch for more information. Thank you. Bye-bye.
And now we're going to go to one of our friends who is here. Jocelyn Favre-Bouler is the operations director at Les Roches in Switzerland. And we've had the pleasure of collaborating over the past 3 years. I've attended a really interesting festival that Jocelyn's college throws in November of every year, focusing on sustainable tourism. And we've become friends over that time, and it's great that she came here to actually participate in this event with us. And rather than Jocelyn did send in a presentation, but because she's here, she's actually going to be a real live speaker. Jocelyn.
Perfect, thank you so much. So I think just before I start, I would like to take the opportunity just to thank everyone who's involved with this fantastic event. So Leslie, Jeffrey, all the team at Malta Tourism Authority, Simon, ITS, and all of the SUNx Malta team. Thank you so much, and thank you for having me here. It's an absolute pleasure. And also a pleasure to be representing the Roche Global Hospitality here. So I have the honor today to launch the SEYS Student Competition, or if you like, the SEYS Awards. This competition is a unique opportunity for young students from all around the world to showcase their ideas and perspectives on a global issue that has been of concern for many, many years. This year's competition topic is, why is the Earth Charter more relevant today than when it was introduced by Maurice Strong and Mikhail Gorbachev 20 years ago, with a particular focus on tourism in least developed countries and small island states. We're delighted to have partnered with the Earth Charter Institute in Costa Rica, the China Biodiversity Conservation and Green Development Foundation in Beijing, and the European Center for Peace and Development in Belgrade to deliver this fantastic competition. The Earth Charter is a document that outlines a set of ethical principles that emphasizes the needs for sustainability, social justice, and peace. It was launched on the 29th of June in the year 2000 at the UNESCO headquarters in Paris by Maurice Strong, a Canadian businessman, so I think we know who Maurice Strong is now, wonderful gentleman, and Michael Gorbachev, the former president of the Soviet Union. The Earth Charter was developed through a decade-long process of consultation, drafting, and international dialogue. And it has been endorsed by thousands of organizations and millions of individuals worldwide. We believe that the Earth Charter is a vision of hope and a call to action. It recognizes that we are all part of the global community, that we have shared responsibility to protect the planet and promote sustainable development. It is more relevant now than ever before, as we face unprecedented challenges such as climate change, environmental degradation, and social injustice. In the context of tourism, especially in least developed countries and small island states, the principles of the Earth Charter are crucial. The LDCs are characterized by low levels of economic development and poverty, and vulnerability to external shocks such as natural disasters. Small island states, on the other hand, are often dependent on tourism as a source of income, but also vulnerable to impacts of climate change, such as rising sea levels and extreme weather events. Tourism can aggravate these issues if not managed sustainably. The Earth Charter calls for the adoption of sustainable tourism practices that respect the environment, promote social justice, and contribute to local economies. This includes minimizing the negative impacts of tourism on the environment, ensuring that local communities benefit from tourism, and promoting cultural exchange and understanding. All the entrants will receive an electronic copy of the book, Remembering Maurice Strong, which provides insights into the life and legacy of the Earth Charter's founder. The winners of this competition will be announced later this year during Shiftin 2023 in Les Roches, Montana. We believe that the SEYS student competition is a unique opportunity for you to engage with those important global issues and contribute to creating a more sustainable future. It provides a platform for you to showcase your ideas, gain recognition for your work, and contribute to global discussions on sustainability. Therefore, we encourage you to research, develop your perspectives on the relevance of the Earth Charter today, especially in context to tourism in least developed countries and small island states. In conclusion, and to quickly recap, we invite all students from all around the world to participate in this competition and share their thoughts on the importance of this topic. The Earth Charter is a crucial document that outlines a set of ethical principles for sustainability, social justice, and peace. It was launched in 2000 by Maurice Strong and Mikhail Gorbachev and is more relevant now than ever before. The SEYS student competition provides a unique opportunity for students to engage with these important global issues and contribute to creating a more sustainable future. We look forward to receiving all of your entrants and wish all of the participants the best of luck. We also hope that many of you will be able to join us online or in person in Montana for the Shiftin Festival, where we will be announcing those winners. I think, Jeffrey, that gives sort of a solid sort of idea of what this competition is about, a little bit of a background of the Earth Charter. And I know that you had a little bit of exciting news sort of to add onto the back of that.
Yeah, we thanks very much for that, Jocelyn, as ever, and you've always been a terrific partner. We are going to give one special award this year because each participant, thanks to the generosity of Les Roches and our friends in the MTA, each of the winning 10 awards receives a 500 euro award. And when you're a student, as I recall, that can be quite helpful, particularly in the bar late at night. We're going to give an award which we call the Valeur Toujours Award. And for those of you who don't know Valeur, he died a few months ago. He was a constant commentator on green tourism all around the world. And he built a magazine called Vision of Sustainable Tourism, which was supported by Travel Mole. And I recently wrote a piece for Travel Mole about Earth Day. And I related it to the work of Valeur. And it did occur to me at the end, it would be nice to make one of these awards. The leading essay will become the Valeur Toujours Award, and it will be supported by Travel Mole. And we'll announce that also at Shiftin. And maybe I should irreverently say that I realize that few of you have heard of the Earth Charter, but as Jocelyn says, it's well worth reading. And you may have heard, I'm sure, of the Terra Charter, which was created last year by who is now King Charles, then Prince Charles. And I like to tell people that Terra Charter was created by King Charles and copied 20 years earlier by Maurice Strong. The Earth Charter. So we come to the end of our time today. We have one last presentation, and this is from one of the stalwarts of the travel and tourism sector, Jürgen Thomas Steinmetz, who is the chairman of the World Tourism Network, one of our partners in this and so many other endeavors. And Jürgen has an announcement to make about a similar event to this, but probably on a much grander scale, that he's going to be holding later in the year. So if we could play Jürgen's final piece, please.
My name is Jürgen Steinmetz, and I'm the chairman and co-founder of the World Tourism Network. World Tourism Network was started when COVID became a threat to the world back in March of 2020. We actually got together on the sideline of the ITB trade show in Berlin, Germany, when ITB was canceled in March, and many of those people that got stranded in Berlin at the time met at the Grand Hyatt Hotel in Berlin, and we talked about the future of tourism in the age of COVID, not really knowing at the time where COVID would go to and what damage COVID really eventually did to the travel and tourism industry and our planet. In coming together, a team of tourism experts from around the world started a discussion mostly on Zoom during lockdowns and other challenging times. This went on for an entire year till the end of 2020, when we all decided to start a new organization or a new network, and we called it World Tourism Network. Founding members in the organization included Dr. Peter Tallo, who is one of the world's most known safety security experts, Professor Jeffrey Lipman, who is an expert in climate change and so forth. A year and a half, 2 years later, now in April of 2023, the World Tourism Network has members in 130 countries, a little bit more than 1,400 members. And what is very exciting, a number of events are emerging that are now live events, including our adventure meeting in Kathmandu, Nepal, what will be in June. We're going to be meeting in Montenegro in May. And our main summit has been announced for Bali, Indonesia. And this will be happening September 29th to October 1. Since our network is catering to medium and small size businesses, we invite everyone, whether you are a small or medium sized businesses, whether you are employed in the travel and tourism industry, whether you're public or private sector, to join us in Bali. It's going to be an exciting event. Actually, it's going to be 5 events in one. We're going to tackle the issue of climate change and sustainable tourism. We're going to be talking about the future and the current state of medical tourism. We're also going into the field of safety, security, and investments. We're going to have Minister Bartlett from Jamaica introducing a new resilience center in Bali. And then, of course, we're going to introduce our host, Indonesia, as a destination for travelers to explore what is an ideal market for medium and small-sized businesses. At the same time, we're inviting tourism boards from around the world to join us in Indonesia and also take advantage of the enormous potential of the outbound market of one of the largest countries in the world, Indonesia. Together with the Ministry of Tourism of the country, the Bali Tourism Board, the Central Bank of Indonesia, and many more that are supporting us so far, we want your support and we want you to join us. How to do this? You can go to our website, wtn.travel, become a member, or you can go directly to Time 2023, like time2023.com. And both websites, of course, are interlinked, so it's easy to find. Become a member, join us in Bali, and actually as a paid member, the event is free to attend. Thank you very much, and we're looking forward seeing you in Bali. Terima kasih. That's how they say thank you in Bahasa Indonesia.
Right. So now we have a period for discussion and for questions and answers. I know there was someone I can see in the top corner, and I think, Reza, are you going to make this happen? I can see you raising your eyebrows.
No, but I see Mr. Rod Habis from Saudi Arabia here, and I think he has a question.
Yeah,
thank you, Reza. Thank you, Reza. Actually, I enjoyed this third SUNx conference event. It's very interesting to see how SUNx and Sir Jeffrey is evolving his program. I really liked the rollout plan to establish 52 chapters around the globe to promote the understanding of sustainable travel, sustainable tourism. So congratulations, Mr. Jeffrey. Also, I love the idea of Mr. Brown about Sustainable Travel Club. As I come from the airline industry, Saudi Airline, and established Saudi frequent flyer with ICLP, a company in the UK. Saudi have almost now 3 million members, and I'm sure there is a quite decent number of travelers. They will be interested to have those products in the frequent flyer program. I also welcome my friend, Mr. Jürgen, the founder of the WTN. Actually, yes, it was 3 years ago when COVID was there, and we were one of the active members. I represent the WTN network president chapter in Saudi Arabia, and I'm very glad to see that all these efforts during this past years is evolving and becoming active programs to promote awareness for quality tourism and sustainable tourism to support the local economy and social justice. I will be interested, Sir Jeffrey, to establish the local chapter for SUNx Saudi Arabia. Thank you very much all, and special thanks to our friend, Mr. Sultani, for organizing this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So I see Miss Diana McIntyre from Jamaica. Diana, please.
Yes, thank you very much for this wonderful session. I have enjoyed every minute of it, and happy to know about potential development of the travel clubs, which we support 100%. My question is, and this is a very important question, while we talk about sustainable development and sustainable tourism, we have a crisis, for example, in Jamaica, where large hotels are being built, where mangroves are being destroyed to facilitate them. And yet our government, say they're into sustainable development, but it is affecting our beaches. And that's why I like the idea of the travel club, because we need to get the education out there, not only to the communities, but to the very governments. I want to find out if any of the group here are targeting the large hotel development worldwide to let them understand that they can't go into a country and have that happen, where they destroy the mangroves and the natural environment. That's my biggest issue right now. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, let me, if I may, raise before you ask the next question. I think what might be quite interesting in the context of the last speaker to, next time we come together, to have our friend Ed Bartlett, the tourism minister for Jamaica, who has established a resilience center and is building a series of resilience center relationships around the world. I think he's the best person to answer this question, which will differ from country to country, because the circumstances in every country is different, and you know, I don't think we have the skill set here to give a genuine response to that. And with regard to our friend from Saudi Arabia, we're happy to work with them after this to see if we can establish a center, a chapter in Saudi Arabia. It's hardly what I would call an LDC, but nevertheless, our vision is not to simply be active in LDCs. We're active in Malta, and Malta is not an LDC, but it is a small island state. But we're happy to collaborate with anyone. That's our philosophy.
Okay, thank you very much. That would help, but I still think we need to, besides, you know, Ed Bartlett or Minister, we need to target the larger hotels as they do development, and they're moving around the Caribbean, but mainly in our side of Jamaica. I just have a problem where we need some information from them, what they think about sustainable tourism, because they don't seem to care. So I'm just passing it on for what it's worth. Okay, thank you.
Marissa, do you want to take the next speaker?
The next is Maud Maisaiva, if I pronounce correctly.
Yes, you did. Hi, good day. Can you hear me? Hello,
Yes.
can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. I have a question, and it's addressed to my colleague, Ollie, and it's pertaining to the CFT maps in the LDCs. Part one of that question is how are they going to be designed for certain destinations in the LDCs, where you may find that places of interest aren't exactly well marked for any known maps. And the second part is still talking about the CFT maps. How will you ensure that the local suppliers are included in the mapping so that we avoid any local economic leakage? Thank you.
I'm not sure that Ollie is with us. He was actually driving during the course of this seminar, but if he's here, it would be fine for him to respond. If not, I'll respond to you more. The service that Ollie was talking about is provided by a group called WANDA, one of our SDG 17 partners, and it's a small company out of Utah in North America. And their way of approaching this is they deal through the local tourism authority. They provide a service, but it's not a free service, so they negotiate a contract to produce these, and they are very brilliant maps, which then appear on your mobile phone. And our idea is that those properties which sign up to the registry and others who fall into the clean and green mindset would be featured on these maps, so that travelers can see on their phone which are the environmentally responsible, climate conscious properties. And I think it's inevitable that any tourism authority who is negotiating with that company would be obliged and would want to take into account the views of the local community, because it's their local community. And I saw Leslie nodding here, which gives me a little bit of comfort. And I think that's how this is going to happen, Maud. And certainly we would hope that the local chapter, when it got involved in this, and you are going to be the person who's going to make that happen, would themselves make the point that you've been making.
Thank you very much, Jeffrey. My response, thanks.
Oli, are you here actually?
Yeah, thanks, Reza.
No.
Sorry, I stepped away just as the question is being asked. So thanks, Jeffrey, for stepping in for me.
Okay. So do you want to add something more?
Well, I'm afraid I didn't catch the question because I had to go into the other room. So, Maud, if you could repeat it, I'd be happy to answer it. But I'm afraid I wasn't actually on audio at the time.
Okay.
I think we got an answer to it, and we don't need to repeat it. We could just move on.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next is Sitaram Dahal.
Thanks to all. I'm Sitaram from Nepal. Actually, I work at Nepal Tourism Board. And since my country is one of the LDCs, my concern is more about not only about aviation, as we have been talking more about aviation while talking about climate-friendly travel, but there are equally other sectors as well within tourism, like food miles, as many tourists tend to prefer imported food, processed food, and even meat production, which are not only major contributors of GHG, but they are equally impacting the local economy as well. So what's the scope of incorporating these debates in CFT? Thank you.
Well, I think we've got a pretty clear position on both of those issues. When it comes to the food issue, we are entirely supporting what you say, that it's a great thing for visitors to be sampling local food rather than imported food. And it's also, local food is part of local culture. So they're experiencing the local culture when they're doing this. On aviation, we've taken a position which is somewhat controversial. We think that the aviation authorities, ICAO, IATA, the airlines themselves have said that within the next 10 to 15 years, the only supply of aviation which is capable of helping meet the Paris Agreement is sustainable aviation fuel. They say they don't have enough of it, and they say that it's too expensive to purchase. And our position is that that's not an answer at all. And that the big global fuel companies who've been making billions of dollars of profits every day since the climate crisis was first identified, and there's lots of evidence that says Shell particularly had awareness of the climate crisis consequences of fossil fuel 20, 30 years ago. These massive companies should make the whole issue of sustainable aviation fuel a priority. They should be able to ensure that there is more of it. And above all, in the interest of climate justice, they should make sure that the poorest countries and small island states who are really dependent on tourism and didn't start the crisis in the first place should get a fair share. That's the position that we've been advocating at SUNx Malta. It's not necessarily very popular. And the last point on this, and this is the one that will make me really unpopular, it's clear to me that if the planes can't fly in a way which is clean, which does not pollute, airlines should not be flying and increasing their flights in the same way. And they should have a plan B. And the plan B says, if we don't want to kill your kids in 20 to 30 years' time, this is how we are going to deal with it. And they don't have a plan B at the moment.
Thanks, Professor.
Okay, the next, Maria Rastovara, please.
Yes, greetings to everybody from the behalf of Group D. And I would like to say that we are really happy all to be here and this issue on the climate-friendly tourism and sustainable tourism transfer is really important and on the global stage now. And actually, I would like on behalf of our Group D to ask a question about the aviation with a special focus on Ukrainian and Ukraine and war and Russian military invasion to Ukraine situation. So today, some of the biggest Ukrainian airlines, for instance, SkyUp and Ukrainian International Airlines, have all of their flights abroad because the Ukrainian sky is closed, and they use their partner relationships with other European airlines to continue their work. So the planes and staff are involved in the activities of other airlines and dependent on the policy of the foreign countries. And actually, this is the question, what could be the first steps to try to promote climate-friendly activities if domestic enterprises are not interested and don't have the opportunities to work with the domestic market. So how can Ukraine, via its tourists, as well impact on the transfer to climate-friendly airlines, not having them now on our territory? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that, Maria. Maria, we have 4 students who were kindly given scholarships from Ukraine. And we did this not because we have any special knowledge, because we felt empathy for what is happening to the people in Ukraine. And I can only give you a personal view based on about 1,000 years of being in this industry. When you face a war situation, you simply cannot make tourism work. And that's a reality, and it's one of the terrible things about war. What we have decided to do with our group of students, Maria is one of them, and with the other 3, and in consultation with the Tourism Authority of Ukraine, we've decided to help them put a plan B together. And a plan B says, one day this war will end, and hopefully it will end the right way. And war criminals from Russia will go to jail. And we think they have to have a plan, a little bit like our friends in Malta Tourism Authority put together with their strategy in the middle of COVID, that one day things are going to improve, you have to live in the meantime. Tourism cannot work during this period, but you have to be ready to go from day one as soon as it ends. And I think everybody here personally would agree with me, the sooner this ends and the sooner that Ukraine is allowed to operate like a normal state again, the better for everybody. And personally, I've only been super impressed by the spirit of Ukraine and by your incredible president who's managed to make this into a global concern. So our answer, Maria, is, and you're going to be involved in this, is we're going to put a plan B together for Ukraine, pull in some of our friends from around the world who feel the same way, and help you be prepared when this is over.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, actually, it's really important, this implementation of Plan B for Ukraine, and we express our gratitude to all the prominent international community and who really want and
make actions on the implementation of climate-friendly travel approach.
Thank you. And the next, Anna Barrett, please.
Hello, thank you very much for a great webinar. My question is actually details about the entries for the awards, just as information. I was wondering where students would find the information for where the essays must be sent, and what the date deadline for the entries would be, and also maybe information about where they could find the Earth Charter, though I presume they could just tap that into Google and find it. Thank you.
Yeah, on the latter question, as always, you're absolutely right about finding the Earth Charter, and you can look up the Earth Charter Institute and Google it. The entries will close a month before Shiftin.
So yeah, sort of, I would say to be prepared for the beginning of October. I mean, I remember last year and looking at the fantastic engagements on this webinar today. I mean, it's incredible. 71 chats, multiple questions, etc. I'm expecting that there's going to be a lot of entrants. I think last time Jeffrey and I did about 1 week of solid reading, didn't we? So we will need some time. So I would say beginning of October, but more details to come. You have a bit of time there. This is really today just sort of the launch, spread the word, and the details. I'm guessing, Jeffrey, the details will probably be published and sent out.
Well, the information you'll get on our website,
Exactly,
and I'm sure with Les Roches the same, and it will be available within the next week.
Exactly. So beginning of October would be a good frame to be expecting. Give us time to read those papers.
Okay, I think we can take a couple more questions, Reza, and then we'll bring this to an end.
Okay. So, Mr. MD Rahul Islam.
Thank you. I would like to thank the organizer for arranging this timely summit. I am Mohammad Majharul Islam from Bangladesh Tourism Board. I am grateful to Mossadegh Bali, founder of Ajalai Hotel Group, for sharing his perspective. His message is very clear to me. He invited all the players to respect the environment, to make sure our operations are greener. You know, as a player, tour operator takes tourists to different destinations, which increase the tourist footprint in different tourist destinations. The increasing number of footprints in the destinations create the possibility of unsustainable destination. How can we motivate the tour operators as a player to initiate effective measurement to create responsible behavior from tourists to ensure a sustainable destination? Thank you.
Well, the short answer is a lot of them are actually, and have been for many years, working on green solutions. I think that the intensifying weather patterns are going to make it absolutely clear that they have to increase their priority on these issues. That will be coupled and dependent on where you are in the world more extremely by regulation, which is going to encourage good behavior and discourage, penalize bad behavior. And as the overall geographical conditions worsen, I think you will find that governments are doing more and more to put pressure on everybody inside the system to reduce their carbon, but more importantly, and I think this is relevant for tour operators, to make sure that there is safety and security and resilience at destinations. This is how the market will help make this happen. We don't have any magic answers. All we can do from our perspective is pursue the approach which we've laid out today, And there's many other organizations doing similar things, and we're not suggesting that we're the only people who have the motivation or even the right answers. Our friends from Ukraine remind me, this is a war. This is not the same war as they're undertaking, but this is a war with nature. And people, tour operators, are in the front lines. They're the people who are sending people to destinations. So you just have to assume that they're not stupid and that they will make this a priority themselves. I think we've got one more question we can take. I can't read who it is, but there's a lady with her hand up, Fraser.
Yeah, maybe last question, Jonelle Coswell, please.
Yes, hi, thank you, and greetings to everyone around the world. This has been really wonderful and illuminating, and some really great information was shared today. I just want to know what would be the follow-up steps, because it's so amazing to have all this energy and to have everyone participate and network and get to know each other. But what are the next steps? Will we be on a communication list going forward? Because I found out about this through my my school's website, and I just wanted to know if there will be follow-up communication, and if this group will be, contacted moving forward to continue the energy and to grow upon what we've learned and done today. Thank you. And thank you so much for putting this together. It has been really wonderful.
Well, the answer to the question is, if there wasn't going to be before, there will be now. And nothing could be more music to our ears than to have your reaction the way it was. Because when you put these things together, you have no idea. We've done lots of them before. Each one is different. And I'm really happy that you ended it in such a positive way. And please feel free. Hans and I are talking to people on Zoom all the time and telling them about what we think are the advantages of climate-friendly travel. Reach out to us. You can get me at glitman@gmail.com, and let's talk about how we can together build this. Thank you very much. Thank you for your kind words. With that, I'm going to ask Leslie.
Sir Jeffrey, if you allow me before you make a closing, this is again Bright Habis from Saudi Arabia.
Of course, and if you make it very brief, please.
Yes, just 1 minute, please. I have listened carefully to the dialogue and discussion. And actually, yesterday, I watched a report about the biggest turnover companies in the globe, which is mainly energy companies due to the war in Ukraine. So Aramco was the biggest with a turnover of $387 billion, and it was announced yesterday. What I am proposing here is that we can approach the Minister of Energy, since the Crown Prince put the Vision 2030 during the Sharm el-Sheikh Climate Change Conference for a green initiative for Saudi Arabia and the Middle East and the globe. And then we can run 2024 competition on clean fuel, clean energy, together with King Fahd University, Petroleum University in Dhahran. It's just a suggestion. If you find it acceptable, we can communicate, and I do get your emails, and then we can pick it up from there. Thank you very much again, and it's been a pleasure attending this event.
And thank you so much.
For sure, we can communicate. and putting on my hat as an envoy for the Sustainable Tourism Global Center, which is in Saudi Arabia, I think that's a more rational place to have this discussion. And we have had some discussions with Saudi Aramco, for example. And I think your point is a valid point, that maybe they should step up to the plate and do more in this particular area of climate-friendly travel. So let's communicate offline beyond this this event, and perhaps we could ask our chairman Leslie Vella, who started this off, if he'd bring it to a close, Reza.
Thank you very much. A few words to conclude this very enjoyable and very useful and very well attended session. What I want to say, going back to my words of introduction, way back in November 2018, when Jeffrey Littman and Ollie Wheatcroft met me at World Travel Market in London and shared the ideas about climate-friendly travel and setting up something jointly with Malta. I have to confess I had my doubts. I had my doubts because it was just three people talking, sharing
Who is this man?
ideas on which they agreed, but especially from Jeffrey's end, placing very high expectations. And here we are 3.5 years later, and we see something that has grown. And as I was seeing, as I was following all the inputs during these last 2.5 hours, what came to mind is something that comes out of chemistry or physics, which is something called cohesion. And cohesion, when we talk about cohesion in science, visualize drops of water, all individually small and tiny. But when you drop them near each other, water has this tendency to stick. And you see all the individual little insignificant drops automatically, as if alive, joining together to form larger drops until they become a large pool of water. And I think this is what we have seen today. All of us are individual drops sharing a common interest, starting off as insignificant pieces in a huge puzzle. But what encourages me 2.5 hours after starting is that we do have cohesion, and we have grown what we started together, and there is a lot of potential to contribute to achieve results and to keep meeting regularly and grow in an exponential manner. I hope that you found these concluding words useful. I'm very encouraged with what I followed today. Our commitment remains very strong towards this movement that we have started together, and I look forward to continue meeting in the months and years ahead to report on further initiatives and results. So thank you very much.
And thank you, Reza, for the technology. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Welcome. It was really great. So I just want to remind everybody that from tomorrow, the recording will be available, including all the links and the biography of all the speakers. And you can also contact them directly from their page. So I think we came to the end. Thank you so much. It was really wonderful webinar. Thank you everybody for watching this from Facebook, Instagram, live on our website and everything. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.